And hello, and welcome to Magical Journey Podcast. I'm your host, Daniel Ian Cahoon. Could you imagine being at your job, doing the thing that you do every day, and then all of a sudden being faced with a call that puts you in contact with some of the most bizarre experiences you could possibly imagine? Tonight, my guest can tell you a lot of stories of just that because on his job, he's come in contact with many, many experiences of the paranormal. So, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, I'm going to bring Bruce Brown to the stage.
Hey,
Hey,
glad to be here.
you know what? I am super glad you're here because you have just a pantheon of stories, events that have happened in your life. Uh, give as if we don't already know. I'm sure most everybody knows your story somewhat, at least who you are and what you do. But for those that may not, tell us a little bit about what your background is.
I'm a former law enforcement officer, patrolman, deputy sheriff, sergeant of patrol, detective, chief of narcotics. I'm retired now. I'm a researcher in Bigfoot cryptids.
Wow, you were in the trenches.
Yes, yes. Uh-huh.
You were really in the trenches. Um, what led you in your your quest through your career? What led you to the point of retirement and going into researching what you're researching now?
Well, I got hurt in the line of duty busting the old style meth labs. And then
Mm.
when I had to go into retirement, so that gave me the opportunity to go back in and investigate a lot of things that happened to me since I was 8 years old, and then things happened to me when I was a law enforcement officer
Mm.
involving cryptids and the paranormal. Uh, so I've got into that. I'm pretty interested in it. I've learned a lot about it. Um, that's basically all there is to me. I'm just uh, out here discovering new things every day.
That is literally a lifetime of stuff, though. That's amazing, and I feel you because it was about that time period in my life where I started having some pretty interesting experiences too. So I get it. Um, and we're probably not that far apart in age either. Uh, let me ask you this because so East Tennessee, I guess from Central Tennessee all the way to the the Carolinas. I mean, it's a vast area. Seems to be just a hotbed of activity. Now, we were talking before the show about uh, the minerals and so forth, and I know there's some crystals like celestite and quartz, pyrite, that sort of thing. I think we even have calcite in this area. Uh, but there's also a lot of minerals too, harvesting yeah, minerals that are part of the makeup of this area. What other things do you think would contribute to the just vast amount of stuff that happens in these areas?
Well, besides your minerals, your gold, your silver, your uranium, all these other things, uh, you have a lot of superstition. Uh, you have a lot of people that was in the years ago that were uh, dead set on their ways, and they left imprints when they left this world.
Mhm.
And there's still residual here. So this was a hard land. This wasn't an easy land. This was a
Right.
very hard land to survive in. So you have to look at what people went through, uh, their sufferings, what they've seen. This all shapes an area to make it into what we know as the Middle Eastern Tennessee, which is a highly, highly active area. And then you, on top of, when you throw our people from years back in, then you have to look at the Indians. You know, there were more Indians living in Middle Tennessee and East Tennessee than there are people today. So just about everywhere is Indian mounds and sacred areas, along with many cave systems here. So you have all this underground activity too. And then plus with the mining of these minerals, it just opens up a vast world of paranormal and different things.
Absolutely. I think the mining industry here is very probably very influential in that. I think the cave systems here have gotten a lot of attention from the paranormal community as because they're vast. I mean, if you look at the maps, the Appalachia area is just literally covered in caverns going all the way into Maine, down into North Alabama, and those areas. They're everywhere.
Right. I mean, give you for instance, there's a town that's north of Murfreesboro, north of Lebanon, northeast of Lebanon, called Red Bull Springs, Tennessee.
Right.
The whole town is built on a cave system. The water that they produce there doesn't come out of a river; it comes out of springs, and it's over 200 miles of water line. So there's a lot of underground activity.
Right. And they have apparently quite a bit of activity in that area.
Right.
I believe I know some people that are getting ready to go there to do some work in that area coming up. Let me ask you this. So, what is probably the most bizarre experience that you've had in your line of work in the Eastern Tennessee areas?
Paranormal.
Mm-hmm.
It would probably be in the night I seen what appeared to be a Mothman, but actually turned out to be more like a devil type creature that
Oh, wow.
flew, that had a wingspan, I'm guessing around 20 to 22 feet. It had hoofs for feet, had short horns on its head. Again, the eye features were different, extremely big eyes. So yeah, that was probably the most memorable one that actually I had to stand back for a minute to try to figure out what it was.
Yeah, 'cause that sounds kind of confusing. Because I mean, there have been some reports of Mothman in Tennessee.
Right.
I believe most of those, the ones that I know of at least, are usually around the Secret City area.
Right.
And for those who don't know, whenever I say the Secret City area, I'm talking about Oak Ridge, which we may or may not discuss from time to time on here. So I know one of the more controversial things that have happened in the area that you were actually involved in, I believe, was it the sugar flats? Is that
Yeah,
the
they're in Wilson County. Yes.
yeah? Now I gotta tell you, I went to the McMinnville Wild Man Conference a couple of years back, and they had the decoy head there
Yeah.
on display, and that was really my first experience with um, getting to know much about the story. I'd heard about it. I hadn't really ever investigated it. So tell us a little bit about, because this is for me one of the most interesting from a term of documentation stories that there really is.
Well, there was a couple, man and woman, that worked at a business there in Lebanon, Tennessee.
Mhm.
They were both married, and they had an affair. And they would go out Highway 70 to what we call a Sugar Flat Road and park out there. And on a cold winter night, they went through there and they hit what they thought was somebody. When they got out and checked, it wasn't a person, but it was a creature. Now, this creature was short hair and red. Had a small head, about the size of an average person's head. He, being the man, got out and they were in a pickup truck and had a shovel in his truck along with other tools. He dug a small hole and put it in that hole and covered it up, and then went back and retrieved it after he took this woman back to her vehicle and retrieved it. And then he got with another man who in turn they took the whole body and decapitated it and brought the head out after they had froze it and showed it. And me and the zoologist, myself and the zoologist from Chicago Zoo, his name was Stan Saturnus Sr. He was the head zoologist. He was a primate specialist. So 60 Minutes had paid him to go down and check it out and take samples. And they needed me to get, he hired me to help him to get access to it. Mm. Okay. So at that time, the head had been frozen, but it was locked in a walk-in safe in a cooler. So the samples were taken, and on the way back, after we did our investigation on the way back to taking him to the airport, we discussed what he thought and what I thought about it, in which we knew it was real because all the organs and everything, we were allowed to go a little bit deeper than this guy didn't want the body really any parts taken. In other words, he would let you go in and look at it, get some hands on, but you couldn't take anything other than a hair sample and blood sample. The government stepped in after that. Anyway, during our decision, we confirmed it was real, but when it was sent to the government labs on our hair samples and blood samples and tissue samples, it come back inconclusive. Mm. So we had the pictures, we had all the evidence we needed to prove this existed. Well, when the government stepped in, this guy flew this corpse to Russia and hid it for about 4 years and had a taxidermist to make an identical head of it, and then brought it back to Lebanon, Tennessee, and displayed it in an antique store window inside of a case for years. But the head and the body of the creature is actually lays in 2 different countries. Part of the body is in Russia, meaning the main part of the body, and the head's in Tennessee, still sealed in a freezer.
Wow. So I'm really trying to wrap my head around this because this is quite interesting. And this story never ceases to amaze me when I hear about it, because one of the things that I found very interesting was the report that you made out the night of the incident went missing, correct? Or did it?
Yes, everything went missing on that one and another one that was hit by a car. The law enforcement was actually called to. All of her paperwork, all of her evidence, everything went missing.
Wow. Now, where was that the second incident at?
The second one was in Middle Tennessee, also in the county of Macon County.
Okay.
A man hit it going down a country road and had broke its legs and had knocked it through a fence, a barbed wire fence, when he hit it. And then when we got there, the creature was still alive. The Sasquatch was still alive, and we debated it on putting it out of its misery, but we decided not to because you can fix broken legs. It did have some blood coming out of its ear and its mouth, so we knew it had internal injuries, but we didn't know how bad, so we decided not to shoot it, put it down. While we were there doing our investigation, talking to the man that actually hit it, taking pictures and measurements, this thing tried to crawl off, but it couldn't crawl. It was in too much pain. And we were there probably a couple hours when a black unmarked Ford police cruiser, just like mine with tinted windows, pulled up, along with an SUV, extremely long SUV, pulled up, and these guys got out with Eagle badges, which is federal government. You don't know what you get when these people show up. So they took the scene over. We still had to do our accident reports, our incident reports, our witness reports, and all that when we turned that into the department, and then went back to get it just a few days later for proof, because we were looking for the car and the gentleman. All that disappeared. Wow. And the record come in that we'd never seen before, picked the car up. The Bigfoot was loaded into the back of this SUV. It was put on a flatboard stretcher and strapped on the stretcher and was put in the back of the SUV. And then after we'd done all reports, all that's written in the reports. And then the accident report, the damage on the car, our witness reports, all that disappeared in just a matter of days.
What would you say that, and this is kind of a two-parter, what would you say that the relationship between law enforcement and these creatures are, and what would you say the relationship between these federal agents and these creatures are?
Well, law enforcement really doesn't have a relationship with these creatures. I mean, we treat it just like we would anything else we're supposed to. We're trained to act a certain way and do a certain way. We treated the scene as if it was a human being that had been hit with a car. So we had to break the measuring tapes out, the cameras, the rulers, everything, everything about this creature, from where it laid to how far the fence post was from the right foot. All that stuff is measured out to where you can go back and do an exact scene without being off any bit. It's all written and documented and pictures taken. Far as with the feds, you really don't know what agency you're getting. It's all clandestine ops, special assignment divisions. They don't have to tell you what their division is. All they have to do is show you the badge and declare they're taking the scene over. And then from there, it's theirs. So that makes, of course, you won't find too many lawmen that will argue with them, because that's a whole lot of paperwork we got to do and follow-ups we have to do. And then, so that makes our job a little bit easier, but at the same time, we know all this stuff is hidden. We're just not allowed to come out and talk about it.
Right. Hey, Tom from the Eye of Jupiter is here too. Also, we have my friend Austin Lawrence as well from Dead Chronicles here. These guys are some very well well known and enjoyed people in the community. So I'm glad that they showed up tonight for this. So let me see. Here's where I find this part very interesting. This is why the story gets interesting to me. Is there's always been this debate about certain organizations existing or not existing and so forth. So when you bring this to my attention, one of the first things I want to do is start deep diving into what is believed in our community these organizations are attached to, because I'm starting to research in those areas and probably digging my own hole, but it is what it is. After all these years, I don't care. I'm that close to the grave as it is. You do your best, guys. So when I hear, I mean, seriously, any day now. So the thing is, though, is when it comes to these particular incidences, one of the questions comes to mind is, like, with the one that was still alive, what do you do with that? I mean, what are they? Are they? I mean, like you said, those injuries could have been repaired potentially. We don't know about the internal injuries, but like the leg issue could be fixed easily in most cases, depending on the severity of the breakage. But it kind of makes me wonder. So exactly, what do they do when they collect these specimens? Of course, we have no way of knowing that, but I'm sure over time you've asked the same things. Now, let me ask you, because I know in several conversations that I've had with people, there's an area in particular that has come up a lot recently. And it's an area that I try to avoid at all possible now, because technically I'm actually supposed to drive through it every time I'm stationed to East Tennessee with my job. I don't. I go the long route and just bill them for the short route. And that is an area just before the Sparta city limits and just after the lookout there past Sparta, the overlook area.
Mm-hmm.
What do you know about that area? Because I've had several conversations with people about that area lately, and there's been a lot of people say, yeah, there's something going on there.
That's called the Warrior's Path. That's an ancient road. Nobody knows exactly how old it is. That's how many thousands of years it goes back. It's called the Warrior's Path. It comes out of Alabama through Tennessee, and it comes through the Sparta region there and goes all the way into Kentucky.
Mm.
And so they had, a lot of the Native Americans had truces that if you were on this road, they wouldn't attack each other. They weren't warring. So it was more or less a trade route for the Native Americans to travel. And so along these routes is many stations to where they camped out, they stayed in caves and patrolled like an officer would certain parts of the road to see who all was using it. And it's known as the Warrior's Path. When Daniel Boone come across into this country, he called it the Old Kentucky Road because that carried him into Kentucky to Boonesboro, where he started that town. So the Warrior's Path carries a lot of supernatural and cryptids.
It does. And is that the area where the pygmy graves are at too?
Yes, the pygmies. You'll have a lot of dogmen and a lot of Sasquatch encounters all up and down the Warrior's Path.
Yeah.
So you'll have a lot of people think that Dogman is something recently been discovered, but it's not. Dogman's been around as long as a Bigfoot, if not longer.
Mm-hmm.
Back years, many years ago, 100 years ago, they considered them a type of animal. And then when the Europeans come over, they called them lions because they had that heavy mane.
Mm-hmm.
Even though they were different colored and stuff. It's just superstitiously, my grandparents wouldn't talk about them, and until the third day after 1 o'clock, because they claimed if you seen one and talked about it before then, it would cause sickness and death in the family. So a lot of these things they kept to themselves. As they plowed fields and found Indian artifacts, and especially burial mounds and stuff, and areas land they cleared, they didn't. It just wasn't discussed with the community.
Wow. I'm taking some notes on some of this because this is stuff I want to remember while I'm doing some deep dives. Yeah, because that area, I gotta tell you, my own experiences there. I was forced because 40 was shut down when I was coming back home during the last, gosh, what was it, 2 weeks ago? I guess that I was there before this big ice storm. I was there, and 40 had gotten shut down because of a traffic problem, and it took me through the back roads of Cookeville all the way during a snowstorm of all things. It was snowing in the area where I was at.
Yeah.
So I couldn't even see. I was driving like a little old lady plus some. And I got to a certain point and I realized, oh crap, I'm right in the middle of the place I don't want to be right now. And I drove right into, like, right past the overlook. And I was like, please, please, please just let me get out of here without any experiences. And thank God that's exactly what happened that day. But I got to tell you, that's the first time in over a year I've driven through that area because the experiences I've had there are not okay. Um, and so that makes perfect sense to me now about that. And I know uh, Randy Hutchings has mentioned the pygmy graves in conversations I've had with him several times. And apparently there are hundreds of thousands of those.
Right, and the pygmies can be very evil. They're very territorial.
Mm,
They can they have a lot of supernatural abilities. They can attach themselves to you. They can follow you home. As you pass through their areas, you can feel a heaviness, sometimes a hard breathing.
mhm.
A lot of people get the jitters, just feel extremely uncomfortable, lightheaded. It's like an anxiety attack, I guess.
Yeah.
Especially when you go around where the little people are, those things will happen.
The the whole like just even looking at the area where I think it is 96 that goes through the central part of the town. Oh my gosh, going through there, it like I've actually had visions of a very ancient place in that spot, not the same town that it is now. And when I was driving through there, and the first thing I thought of is I need to get the hell out of here. Whatever this
Yeah,
is, need to
yeah,
get the hell out of here. So I'm glad you shared some on that because again, this is a puzzle that I've been working on for a while, ever since I come in contact with Sparta. And to be honest with you, the one person I know who was born in Sparta is weird as hell. He's a
yeah.
nice guy, but he is so strange. Like when I talk, and he doesn't believe in the paranormal. That's the funny thing. He's a young guy. He says he don't believe in any of that crap, as he calls it. And I'm like, okay. Well, it's funny because where you were born at is a lot of people do believe that. And he just
Yes,
rolls his eyes. It's like he's in denial.
right.
I
He
guess
believes it. He's just not going to come out and tell you. If
right.
he was born in Sparta and lives there, then he knows. He's just not going to talk about it.
Yeah. Well, he
You
lived
know.
there for yeah, he grew up there. He doesn't live there anymore,
Mhm.
but he grew up there. Um, when you talk about and there's so many areas and so many experiences, it's like this to me is the perfect place to be if you have nothing but time to devote to the paranormal, this would be your gold mine place to retire to, because there's so much here. Lebanon, I just had a lady on last week. She's one of my moms, as a matter of fact. Um, Beth Collinsworth. She lives
Yes, I
over
know.
by that area, and just some of the most amazing experiences she's shared with me. There's several people that have commented about some of the photographs and so forth that she shared with me and said, this is this and that. And look, Katie Page, who is very well known for her work in the paranormal, has looked at some of those and she's like, I can't see that. What I see is this. And she was like telling me basically what what was told to me about the picture is exactly what it was. What she saw was that, orbs and so forth, not the other stuff that people were saying. That's got to be uh, lens flare and so forth like that. And so I'm more prone to think that Katie Page knows her stuff. There's things because she's used to seeing lens flare. She worked with
Right.
MUFON. She was a
Mhm.
field investigator for years. She knows these things.
Mhm.
Um, and so when Beth tells me these things, I can tell you now, again, that area, I have to drive through there to get home from work. That area, I've had missing time and all kinds of stuff in, right on the highway in Lebanon. So in the middle of the day, I'm not talking about like late at night. I don't drive at night in this area anymore. What, are you crazy? Um, no, middle of the day, I've had missing time.
What does
It,
Miss Katie think about Beth's pictures?
for one thing, um, the blue glowing orb, she was like, that is not lens flare. Her and one of her colleagues both looked at it, and it took them a little while to get back to me. And they were like, the people might say this is lens flare. This is not lens flare. They didn't know exactly what it was, but they could tell me what it was not. And I was like, and I've had a lot of people who have tried to debunk that by saying it was lens flare. And I'm telling you, if you look at those orbs, lens flare will eventually change shape. It gets concaved and it looks almost like it almost looks like lens shaped in a way, or bowl shaped in some photos. This thing does not change shape. And I've seen video of this thing moving too, and it does not change shape. And a lot of people have tried to say that the videos um, are from her moving. There's no way, because nothing else is moving but that one spot, that one ball of light. So, and I've looked at these things frame by frame, and I'm like, I'm not seeing lens flare. I don't know what I'm seeing, but I'm not seeing lens flare. And so I tend to want to believe that it's lens flare. I really do. I want to believe it because that's just down the road for me. Okay. I don't want to
Right.
know that I live in, I've already lived in some crazy places. I was like, I don't want to know that I live in another crazy place. But the fact of the matter is I can't deny what my eyes are seeing.
Right. If with Beth, they have a lot of activity there, and not only on where she lives at, but up through that whole area, plumb down to the
Mhm.
Lascassas, Tennessee. Uh, Beth has encountered a lot of things. She saved my skin once. Matter of fact,
Oh,
uh,
jeez.
I was in Fentress County. Uh, it was New Year's, Christmas Eve night.
Mhm.
After me and Vic Cundiff had done a radio show, and I was up there investigating for a farmer that thought he had a Bigfoot. Uh,
Oh,
but
jeez.
so I get up there, and the wind's blowing a little bit too hard. I'm doing calls and stuff. I'm not getting any answers. I've not seen anything, and I've got no cell phone service whatsoever up there. Just as I'm getting to my car, just a few feet from my car, I get a text from Beth. She's in my one of the groups I'm in, and she says, "Where are you at right now?" And I told her. She said, "Well, just stop there a minute. You've got a Dogman who's curious about you." And so I just stood there for a little bit and watched, and sure enough, he raised up behind my vehicle and showed himself. So I stayed still, wouldn't look him in the eyes, and then gradually got to my vehicle, got in my vehicle, started my vehicle, and backed up, and he stayed there the whole time. And then when I backed out in the road, I knew I had to shut this farmer's gate back and lock it, and he told me where to leave the key. So I back out on the road there and got out and locked the gate, and then the Dogman went down on all four and just took off running the opposite direction.
Oh.
So I had my rubber thermal boots on, and I normally go to the back of my vehicle and take them off and pitch them over in the vehicle. Had I done that night, I'd have walked right into him.
Mm. God, you guys are a special breed, because I'm telling you now, like, no, I could not do it. I just could not. There's some, like, I can walk through a Sector 3 neighborhood and feel perfectly fine because I'm around other human beings, and I know as long as I do the right thing, they don't care whether I'm there or not. But I don't know Dogman like that. Like, I don't know that I could be that calm. I don't know if I could be that calm with the Dogman. Wow.
Yeah,
Dude.
you have to show no fear. That's for sure. You're a lot of people who see more than others have ringing in their ears, and that sends out a frequency. That frequency, these cryptids pick up that frequency and will come to you. So a lot of my encounters is because I have ringing in the ears.
You know, you guys keep telling me that, and I've had that all my life. And I keep thinking, well, maybe that's why I've had such an interesting show of things, because that ringing never stops. And the doctors, they don't. It's not tinnitus. They don't know what it is.
Right, but there's no cure. So
Now,
I like to call it the monad frequency, which is the God frequency.
right. Let me ask you
So,
this, and you don't have to answer this if you don't want to, because it is kind of in the range of medical. Like, I know for me personally, they have not been able to ever find the source for it, but there's a disruption of some sort in the right temporal lobe that they don't understand what it is. They can't find a cause for it, and they're not sure what the purpose of it is, or if it could be the cause for some occasional seizure activity I've had. They just can't find any reason for it to exist. Now, do you know if that is common with other people that have the ringing in the ears?
it's not that common, but yeah, it can be. You hear some instances of it. You probably do need to go to the woods. You probably do need to find sit down in the deep woods where Bigfoot is actually at, and let them mind speak you and heal that for you. Because there's nothing you can do about the ringing in the ears, because that's a frequency, that's quantum physics. Okay, frequencies and matter. Okay, frequencies make matter, and they can't be a frequency without matter. That's the God effect. That's the great spirit over everything. Now, Bigfoot has healing processes about it. He can mind speak you. If you get close enough to a clan that has a female and she touches you, and she can heal a lot of things about you. Now, this is not just me saying this. This goes back for a couple of hundred years of the older generation talking about Bigfoot being able to heal their animals and them too.
Mhm.
So this is even in the native talk about it. Native warred with Bigfoot for years, but at the same time, the ones that run the leader of the clan is females. They're able to help you. They will, if you see one on your property and you got a sick cow or something, they can heal that cow.
Hmm. Wow. Now, what do you say to people? Because there's, and it seems like a momentum that has grown steady over time. I call it the cult of the Nephilim because I don't know any nice way of putting it. It's like there's this incredibly large number of people online who have bought into the idea that Bigfoot, that all cryptids are essentially descendants of the Nephilim. What's your thought on that?
I really don't. I really don't believe in that theory. There's too many factual books on it, meaning the Bible too. That God destroyed all the Nephilim. Uh, I believe that these cryptids are just a different race. They're smart. They're a lot smarter than we are. The Bigfoot is, again, this is scientifically proven that on the Bigfoot itself, it has on the mother side human DNA. They don't know what the father side is yet, but they do know what the mother side is. So you have the mother's human DNA in the Bigfoot. The Dogman is fixing to be released. They've been in government captivity for a while too. It's going to be released, and I'm curious to see on it. I believe it's going to have a human DNA. Which side yet, I don't know.
It's very interesting because one of the things when people ask me um, about what I think the Dogman is, I always have to ask them, which variety of Dogman are you talking about?
Well,
Because
you have two. Basically, you have a werewolf. I
mm,
call a shapeshifter, and then you've got a dogman.
mm,
The dogman is a more wilder creature. Uh, a shapeshifter is a more of a hunt man type creature.
mhm,
Uh,
yeah,
so
yeah, and I believe that was probably there was a report a while back on South Lake Shore Drive in Chicago. A woman saw what she called a werewolf at about 4 a.m. in the morning crossing South Lakeshore Drive. And if anybody knows the Chicago area, it seems like it would be very strange to see any kind of thing like that in
right,
crossing Lakeshore Drive at that time of day. But the werewolf variety, though, would make a lot more sense, especially in that area.
right.
Um, so yeah, and the other thing though, and you mentioned this, I believe, in what you were just saying about the releasing the dog man, is the genetically engineered version.
Test tube. Yeah, I call the test tube dogman.
Mhm.
Yeah,
And this is the thing, and several people have raised eyebrows whenever I brought this up because, and I'm sure some of them are thinking, "How do you know about this? You're not supposed to know about this." And I'm like, "Don't worry about how I know about it. Just know that I know about it." That's where the problem lies. Um, the the genetically engineered ones, the test tube ones, as you call them, I think is the next realm of nightmare for mankind. Personally, I don't think these are something that's going to be released that's going to be very friendly toward us. That's my personal thought on it.
there's some already out there that's in federal parks and military installations that cover several thousands of acres. They have released some, uh,
Mhm.
and So they've been out there a while. They were designed to make a super soldier.
Mhm.
Okay, but it just didn't turn out the way they wanted it to be. They've turned them loose in even well-known place called Land Between the Lakes, which is part of the 101st Airborne, Fort
Yep.
Campbell. So you turn these creatures out there, they kill people. But when the military releases them in areas like that, it's easier for them to recover them.
Mhm.
So they were designed to be a super soldier, and it just didn't work out.
Like so many things that they have tried to do. Um, yeah, I got to tell you, my personal thought on that is when you have children playing with adult toys, it can lead to very bad things. This is why you don't let children play with matches.
Right,
And,
right. I mean,
and
COVID's a proof of that. They
yes,
released
exactly,
COVID on the world.
exactly. And this is the ongoing problem: is you have you have little boys in adult pants in charge of way more things than they need to be because they do not understand the outcome that they could unleash. Uh, and whenever they do the thing, it's usually too late before they realize what they've done. So, and I'm going to just kind of leave that there for right now. But the thing is when we talk about these things, in this area in particular, like you said, there's a lot of concentration. I call the area that we live in is an area I call Zone 1, which literally covers, as far as I can tell right now, all of North Alabama, North Georgia, up through Tennessee, the Carolinas, West Virginia, possibly Virginia, up into Ohio, like that whole area through there. Um, the interesting part of it is if you look at that, this area starts about 109 miles away from the 33rd parallel in Alabama, which means somewhere in that area, the 37th parallel lines up. And then you have Asheville. And Asheville, of course, for those that have followed my podcast before, they know what I believe Asheville is. I believe it's the pinnacle, the zenith of what I call the vortex triangle, linked with Mount Shasta and Sedona. And I believe somewhere in all of that, that this area.
I think your mic went off.
There we go. Okay, I
Yeah.
should be back. Okay, good.
Yeah.
Um, this plays a very big part, this area, in something. And I still don't know what the answer to that is, but I know for some reason I keep getting pulled back here. I try to leave and I'm back here. I try to leave and I'm back here. And this time around, I was like, you know what? I'm done. I'm just going to sit here this time. I'm not moving again because for some reason I'm supposed to be here. And every time it's gotten weirder. Like the stories you share, like I'm
Right.
right there with you, bro. It's like I literally question nothing because now I have enough of the same experience. And like I said, we're not that far apart in age if we are at all. I can tell you now, for me, like everything that you're saying, like lines up a lot with some of the things that I've had happen too. So when I see those of us who have had these shared experiences, although I'll tell you, fortunately, I've not come in contact with the big D, the Dogman, like you have, because I don't know if I'm ready for all that. That's a whole new level. Like cryptids, I'm game with. That cryptid, I'm not okay with yet.
Right.
Uh,
But just keep in mind, though, the Bigfoot can be just as dangerous if you run into the rogue one.
right,
Uh,
right, right.
yeah.
And I totally get that. But the ones that usually that I've had dealings with in the past, fortunately, and a lot of that was early on in my life, and as I've always been pretty much just there, just watching. They're
Mm.
observers. That's all and they've told me several times, especially when I was younger, "Don't fear, we're just here watching."
Right. Right.
Okay, well, I don't know how fun it is to watch a kid play in dirt, but hey, you do you, boo.
Yeah.
And it was
It's
like,
just they will
y
mind speak. They will learn. They will learn some of the English language. They know a lot of the native language. Sometimes when you're talking to them, you're not catching everything they're saying. But then when you explain to them that you don't understand, they'll try to use hand signals, and then they do know some words.
yeah.
Uh, one particular one in Fentress County off the Warriors Path, the clan up there that I was uh, dealing with, the female, which is the leader of that clan, uh, she become uh, real friendly with me. She got to the point to where she would come down and keep the others back, and she would come down and sit down on a rock next to me. We had another time she sat down on a log 4 to 5 feet from me,
Mm.
and then they do a lot of chirping. It sounds like a frog, a tree frog chirping, and then they'll do somewhat hand signals. And then one particular time that she told me help, and she told me help 2 or 3 times, and I said I didn't understand. And then she held her hands up like that. Well, I still didn't get it. So when they got up to leave, when she got up to leave and started up the trail, I stayed at a distance behind, and they took me to a cave. But when I got to the entrance to the cave, the voice out of the cave said, "No, no, no." So when I got out of there and got home thinking about it, on my way home, I had passed a guy that was set up on the side of the road selling pecans, big bags of pecans. And of course, pecan trees are not native in Tennessee. They do grow some in the orchards and stuff. But I got home and I got thinking about, well, she said help 3 times, 4 times. And when I got up to the cave, I was told, and it wasn't her, by another one, no, repeatedly. So as I'm at home thinking about it, well, she didn't seem to be hurt. Nobody in the group seemed to be hurt. And I call them as nobody. I refer to them as people because I believe that's just what they are. They're just different from us. And they're the same as us. We all look different.
Mhm.
And so do they. There's no two identical ones of them. So I got thinking maybe we had a bad nut crop that year. Maybe they're hungry. So I left and went back down the road to where this guy was set up. And he was set up off of Highway 25 in Carthage, Tennessee. And I drove by there and I got 4 big bags of pecans from him. And so I drove back to this particular place. It's a good 2.5 to 3 mile walk back in. I walked back in, and by then it was getting dark on me. And I got to the entrance of the cave, and I set the bags down. And as I was setting the bags down, this voice said, "Thank you, thank you, thank you." And it said it over and over till I walked out of sight. I could still hear it as I was leaving.
Wow.
So yes, they do some speaking. They will help you. The nice ones will. Now, I had one encounter that would have killed me. This big male would have killed me if he could have got a hold of me. But the majority of my encounters with Bigfoot has been extremely friendly. Uh, Dogman, at a distance, the closest one I'd ever been to was the one that was at the back of my vehicle that night. The rest of the time, I have ringing of the ears. Sometimes it's really bad. And uh, that particular night with the wind blowing stuff, my ears was ringing really bad. And then I encountered one that I named Laser Eyes, who followed me out of the woods to the car and done damage to my vehicle. It cracked my windshield and broke my rearview mirror off. But I call him Laser Eyes because he admitted his eyes look like lasers.
Wow. Now, let me ask you this, because I know Jessica Jones has mentioned on her show reports of somebody within, I believe, in the Zone 1 area, saying that they had seen a Dogman in a metal uniform with spikes on it.
I've never seen anything like that, but that wouldn't surprise me because, again, the test tube ones they tried to make super soldiers out of them.
Mhm.
So yes, that could have been one in the uniform with a tracker on him.
Yeah.
That's very, very possible.
One of the other things I wanted to ask you about, because I've asked several people about this because it was so unusual to me, I still don't have a good feeling about it. There was one day when I was driving on my way to East Tennessee, and the armadillos have managed to migrate all the way into the mountains now. How they were
Right.
able to do that, I don't know, because at one time they got as far as North Alabama and they started dying off because of upper respiratory issues. Now, a few years later, a couple of decades later, they're all the way into the mountains. So kudos to them for adaptation. But I was driving through there one day, and occasionally you'll see one, maybe one every so often on the side of the road. So I don't think anything about it when I see one here and there. But I got to what was it? Orchard, apple orchard, crab apple orchard.
Crab Orchard, Tennessee.
Yeah, Crab Orchard, Tennessee. I got
Yep.
over that way, and just past there,
Buttermilk Road.
like
Yeah.
literally like on 40 there, right on the highway, just past there, I saw not one, but and they were like spaced, there were groups of them spaced just a few feet apart. But it had to be like somewhere between 10, 20 of them in that one spot, like spaced, like I said, like it was like a group of them ran out and became roadkill, and another group. It was so weird because there were so many of them right there in three different groups, different numbers in each group, but it was a large amount of them right there in that one spot. And I thought, that's not right.
That was probably a Sasquatch run them out because they're competing for the same food, grubs, worms, and stuff. And then
Yeah.
same way with when a place gets too many wild hogs, then you'll hear people talk about seeing also a Sasquatch in an area they've never seen one before, or even a person who's never seen a Sasquatch will say, "I was hog hunting and seen one." That's just part of their food stores.
Yeah, I wondered about that because I was like, it was almost like those times when I've seen abnormally large amounts of deer there in the hills going to East Tennessee, like especially when she gets like past Cookville in that area. There was one year where it was like there was so many deer right there in that area that had all been hit, and I'm like, I was thinking something is really bad over here right now because this time of year I never see that many deer laying on the side of the road, and there was literally just like everywhere you turn there was another deer carcass, and I'm like, and they were fresh kill. I mean, they weren't decomposed yet. I realized it was winter time.
Sometimes, I mean, it's not always Dogman or Sasquatch. It could be coyotes, wild dogs. Could be bears when you get up in there. It's running herds. Uh, you just never know till you investigate it.
Right, right.
That
And
if you would have pulled over somewhere and maybe went down in the woods or off an embankment, look for tracks, look for branches that's broke up high. You could have found out whether it was coyotes or bears or whatever just by the tracks.
right, right. That's one of the other things that's been brought to. I think Beth and I had this conversation last night. Somebody in one of the groups locally got pictures during the snowstorm that she said it could be a bear, but it doesn't look like a bear track to me. And the thing I found interesting about these photos is it looked like a full footprint. Most of the time bears walk on their like front part of their paws, right? But this
They will step in a step too. Their back feet will step where their front foot stepped.
they will, but when they leave claw marks and both like two sets of claw marks doing that?
Not necessarily. No, the front they'll pull with. They'll generally have the claws out. The back will generally be higher. So not necessarily when they step in each track. But if you're just getting one track, then I would on things like that you need a ruler, a cigarette lighter, pocket knife, something to lay in the track to give a size, because sometimes a bear track will fool you and it wind up being a big bobcat.
Wow. This was
So
over in
you'll have those
Cedar.
paths or spreads out. Cedar
Yeah.
Forest. Yeah.
The
With Cedar
Cedars there,
Forest, there's no
yeah.
telling what you get there.
Oh, I
You know,
know.
that could have been a small Dogman, but
Yeah, that's yeah. Which again, like I've pulled out my dowsing rods 2 or 3 different times and said, "Hey, do I have cryptids here?" Got a hard yes. I'm like, "Are they within a mile?" Got a hard no. And then I would be like, "Are they in 2 miles?" And I would get a hard yes. And I'm like, "That's all I want to know. I don't want to know which one.
yeah,
I don't want to know their name.
yeah,
Don't want to know nothing else about them. I just want to know where they're at so I can be aware because I can feel them. I can feel them really strongly in this area." So,
yeah.
and I'm not that far from the Cedars. Actually, one of the ways I can take to get to Lebanon is through 231. So it'll take me right past the Cedars area. I don't care too much for that area either, to be honest with you. Not going to go take a
No,
picnic. Yeah.
right, right.
Yeah. Not going on a picnic there. I don't care what anybody says. So, Bruce, I got to tell you, you are just a library of information and uh, experiences. Oh my goodness. It's like every time I've seen an interview or thought about having an interview with you to ask you questions, I think of 30 more every time I ask a question. I want to have you back on at some point
Yeah, that's
this
fine.
year
Be glad to come back.
and
Yes,
and
sir.
and do some deep diving into some of these things because it's not just cryptids that you have experience with. Uh, you pretty much, I mean, I haven't heard you talk a lot about UAPs and UFOs, but I even imagine that's part of
That was my daddy was spent 33 and a half years in the military as a naval officer, and he was a nuclear warheads specialist. So, yes, do UFOs exist? Absolutely. Have I seen a UFO? No. Have I seen the prototype of a UFO? In 1972, I seen the stealth fighter. It wasn't released until just a few years ago. The
wow.
stealth the stealth fighter was on a aircraft carrier based in Pearl Harbor in Honolulu, Hawaii, inside the aircraft carrier.
Wow.
But we have some technology It's a lot older than what people think it is. We're more advanced than that. I think it was President Truman.
Mm-hmm.
Truman, they were able to use certain technologies to bring UFOs down, and then we learned from there on how they operated, and then we made better fighting machines. They just recently releasing UFOs traveling at 16, 17,000 miles an hour. But the realistic reason for that is they belong to the U.S. military. Too many satellite images and stuff, people would pick up on it. So the Navy or fighter jet pilots from whatever division the Pentagon will let it be released and say it was a UFO going 3 feet above the ocean at 16,000 miles an hour when it was actually one of our aircraft. It's just a smaller down version like the UFO that will hold one man and move at those speeds. And then, of course, then you get into unmanned aircraft. All that technology come from the UFO, the spaceships.
Are you familiar with Dr. Irina Scott?
Not right off. What does she study?
So she, oh my goodness, she has a PhD, obviously. She's been on the show before. Her primary thing is the UFO activity. Her last book, and I know I've got it here somewhere. I've got to reorder my books because I've been playing around with them too much. It's about the Pascagoula incident. It's her second book on Pascagoula, but it also talks about the nuclear connection, UFOs around nuclear sites, and
Yes,
why that's so important.
Yeah. Well, they need that nuclear. The uranium that makes the nuclear to split the atoms is what their aircraft run on.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. You ever heard of the MAJ-STIC-12 project?
That one I have not heard of. I don't believe.
Okay, that's called the Mystic 12.
Oh, here we go again. I was just on this week again. Please talk about this.
Okay, the Mystic 12 is false. It's what the Pentagon has put out. It is a project, but it's not called that. That was only put out like in the 80s because certain leaks got out about this project. So the Pentagon, the military, changed the name up and let the FBI come in to investigate it. So the FBI comes back and says, well, the project don't exist because there's no name. They're going on the name, the Mystic 12. So, but the project does exist. It's just under a different category. The FBI doesn't know what the Secret Service does. Secret Service doesn't know what the Pentagon does. Pentagon doesn't know everything about what the military does. And it's designed to where you can't have one entity take over the other entity because you've got to control the secret information.
Right.
So yes, the UFO that was brought down, now that was shot down with special technology that was discovered off of another UFO during the Roswell incident. The Roswell incident wasn't an accidental crash. It was purposely brought down.
Mm-hmm.
But they recovered one UFO that had some problems that had crashed. But with the Roswell one, they purposely brought it down and were able to understand what caused the first one they recovered not to fly. So they were able to put all these together in studies, and then our stealth jet fighters come out built in off of that, and then our stealth bombers, which during the latest Iran bombing, they showed fuel planes, but those were decoys. Mm-hmm. Those planes run strictly off of a tube of nuclear. I don't know what that nuclear is made up of, the atoms and stuff in it, but they can run forever. All they have to do is keep it maintenance.
Mhm.
So it can fly forever. So they let these refuelers be seen refueling these B-2 stealth bombers in a totally different direction from the other two that flew.
Mhm.
So everything's about secrecy, covering it up. If you'll remember, President Reagan
Mhm.
disappeared with President Gorbachev from Russia. When they come back into view, Secret Service, CIA, everybody was having a fit. KGB, they couldn't find them. But when they reappeared back at the White House, when Gorbachev got back to Russia, he dismantled every nuclear weapon they had. It's because Reagan showed them our Star Wars program to where we can blow up their nuclear weapons in the launch pad before it's even launched.
Hmm.
So the threat of nukes or will never happen because we have the capability to blow them up in the launch pad. So a lot of people ask me about nuclear weapons. Where's the best place to go if one goes off and stuff? Where's in the United States, which would be the Appalachian Mountains. You got the Snowbird Mountains, the Star Mountains. I mean, uh, the blast, the fallout, none of that could get to you there. Gorbachev went back and dismantled it, and the country, Russia, fell apart. And that was
Right.
one of the reasons he was shown what we could do. And it was too dangerous because if they ever decided to declare nuclear war on us, we would just blow Russia up with their own weapons without firing any of ours.
Mhm. Well, and that was one
So,
of the things that in recent developments, you know, I've pointed people back to the conversation I had during that time period where I was telling people, you think that there's a real Cold War. What you don't understand is the same guys who say that they're on opposite ends of this are bedfellows in space right now. So
yes,
if they were shaking hands and sleeping in bunks next to each other up in space, why would they be fighting each other below on ground? It is the same above as below. Trust me on this.
yeah,
And people wouldn't get it, and they still don't understand. There is no conflict between these powers. It's perceived and talked about by the government, but they're all in concert with each other.
yeah. It's a money making machine.
It
War,
is.
war, war makes money. It's the reason why it's still going on with Ukraine. Countries are making mega dollars off of it.
Literally, in this conversation tonight, we have already hit on 2 posts that I made this week alone. That was the second one. So it's like, because
Oh,
literally, yeah, it was a quote that I quoted from, now I can't remember the author all of a sudden, um, an author of one of the books. So it was a quote about war being profitable from his book, and now I'm losing track of which that is. Let me ask you this because I need to wrap this up tonight, unfortunately, because I could talk to you for hours. As we're
okay.
wrapping up the night, though, what is a word of wisdom that you would like to leave with all of us tonight?
If you ain't squatching, you ain't watching. If you're not paying attention.
I knew it was going to be great. That is perfect. That is
Yep.
perfect, dude. All right, I tell you what, I'm gonna pull you back and I'm going to close this out for the night. But thank you so much for your service to this community and for your time tonight. Very appreciated.
All right. Thank you. Glad to be on here, and we'll do it again.
Absolutely, 100%. Thank you. Okay, guys. Whew, I gotta tell you, I'm gonna have to drink lots of cold water and really digest this, because this was good conversation. It's so much to process. I love it. I love it. Anytime that I get on here and I have conversations like this, it's worth it. Guys, keep your eyes open, your ears open, your feet on the ground. Be planted and ready all the time. And may your journey always be magical.
I've waited for so long to see when you come back to me. Through the wars and battles that were lost, we're born again, it's you and me. The rest is history. Past lives. Past lives. Did we dance together on different floors in 1500 or 1504? We must have been lovers, we must have been something in our